we're against the 1%, we're the 99%, forcing you to figure out what are the relationships between all those different groups in the 99% to the 1%. And the latest document that's been generated has been a list of grievances, which have been, people have all contributed to all the ways in which our capitalist corporate system oppresses us.
And you can get a copy of that in the newly published Occupy Wall Street Journal, available today at Occupy Park, published in conjunction with The Independent. 50,000 copies, there'll be plenty to go around.
There were a number of groups working on message. A lot of it was worked on in the listserv, and as we started to get into it, are we going to have demands? What kind of demands? Are we just going to have goals? I thought, this is impossible. I'm going to go crazy. But what happened is the most brilliant conversations going on as people try to solve the problems between these different approaches and different angles of things. And there's the underlying, people don't want to talk about ideology, that's part of the culture. But in fact, there's an underlying ideology and an underlying analysis. And it comes out in different ways in these different groups. And if you come against a contradiction, you struggle with it, and you learn so much while you're struggling with it. We're very close to having a message. I have a list of grievances here with me. There is a long list.
But people are really getting the message. I mean, the message, the reason why we're there is a large part of it is this anti-corporatism that brings us all together. And basically, if you, by addressing that, everything else falls underneath it. Because everything has been caused, everything stems from this. These are businesses that are more important than governments around the world right now. So,
I'd like to speak to that, because I think that you put your finger on the most important thing. You are on Wall Street, and you're talking about Wall Street and corporations dominating our system. We have corporate government today, and people know that, and they're interested, they know it in various degrees. And what you're doing is opening the door for an understanding of the connection between. And this can become all over the country.
It already has.
This is a problem facing everybody in this country.
There are 75 places that are organizing.
Okay.
You can go to occupytogether.org to find out about groups all over the country. 50 people were arrested in Boston this morning. In Pershing Square, there's over 200 people right now in Los Angeles, and it's only going to get bigger.
Or you can go to Take the Square,
worldwide,
and you find the worldwide. And it's amazing how one of the things that encouraged us in the beginning, when we didn't know if we could pull it off, who knew if anybody was going to show up September 17th, is the Spaniards immediately said they were going to their financial district on the 17th. And some of the Spaniards were marching to Paris. The Parisians were going to welcome them on September 17th. That there was a tremendous response from around the world.
What about the color line, which is so blatantly obvious?
That is going to be dealt with by the labor movement. Because the working class in New York City is overwhelmingly black and Latino. And the kind of youth movement we have is not representative of the city. Although we've had numerous black speakers and movement people come and talk to us, it's about to change drastically.
Well, if people were actually at Occupy Park, you would see the extent to which it is not white. It's a very New York City occupation. I think that journalists have been strategically...
But it won't be. I tell you, the postal workers say that they will change the literal complexion of the park. It's promised to me by Chuck Blacken, their political director. That's one of his goals, is to change the complexion of the skin of the park. We went to the postal workers when they had a rally. They're going to come to us, and as we involve the working class, it's going to solve a lot.
I just wanted to ask, I understand there's going to be some kind of major union march this week?
Yeah, October 5th.
Which is what?
Wednesday. There's a group called A Strong Economy for All, which is a coalition that made 12th march through Wall Street. It involves a couple of unions and a lot of community groups, and they're going to start at City Hall around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then march to Zuccotti Square. There are other ways in which the color thing is being challenged. G2 who's a long-time activist, G2 who's a long-time activist in Brooklyn in the black community, came and was introduced to the group, and then he shot an email back that he would like to bring his congregation and the minister to do a non-denominational service tomorrow. So we're getting responses from the black
And
community.
unemployed working class youth, with all due respect to Chuck Slatkin and so on, which I know very well, the fact of the matter is they didn't have demonstrations for their own workers as opposed to that were being laid off with any energy and fire and diversity of composition. I mean, we have to be somewhat honest to
It takes a while, and everything's happening very slowly.
Jackie, to just one thing. The masses of unemployed, thoroughly impoverished, many who have not been allowed into the working force, have a significant population in the city, and with all the respect and affection and encouragement for Take Back Wall Street, it's not been there. So I'm just
It takes time.
Well, I know that. I'm just in there.
Okay, another thing
I'm
that
just interested in how.
Everybody's aware, and everybody is thinking about how to work on it. It is not a failure of consciousness.
Okay, but another
She's
thing.
accusing you of that.
It sounds accusatory to me.
Okay, ladies, I think we can agree to disagree on this point.
We haven't even gotten used to that
Okay,
much.
but another thing, larger picture to try to address this, is there are 4 other marches that are happening today. And we are trying, Occupy Wall Street as a group are trying to encourage people to come to Zuccotti Park so that as their after party for their marches, we have sent out a call to everyone so that everyone can have a space in which they can talk about their various issues that they have. I also am of the opinion, I've been in the park a lot, that the journalists have been very careful to take pictures of just white college students, because then it diminishes the movement.
And the freakiest looking ones.
Have you been there?
Yes, constantly.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
So, this is something, one of the greatest lines that I heard was actually on a video to Slut Walk that's happening right now. This woman said, you know what? We need to stop fighting within each other because it's harder to fight patriarchy when we're fighting ourselves.
Yes.
It is harder to fight corporations when we are fighting ourselves.
We have to overcome the racial problem in this country, or there is no hope for the working class or the middle class. Everybody should be aware of that. Those of us who are organizing there are highly conscious of it.
I think you'll find out
we haven't worked out the strategy yet. But it's not just the postal workers. The 1199 is coming. They're black and brown. There's 32J is coming. They're black and brown.
But
And the youth,
we're also talking about a younger generation which does not see race in the same way that our elders do. We don't. And it is not as much of an issue of bring in the black and the brown because we're there already.
Well, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. There still is Mindy's right, there's a great racial disparity in the way we are now. I'm just not worried about it because I think everybody's talking about what is the best way to get to black youth, and we have to bring in some of their leaders first and ask them.
Okay, I would really like to move forward and
Russell Simmons is supporting us. He's in contact with some people who we bring them in. We're just afraid if his people come, we'll be too overwhelmed.